All right. Good morning. Happy Friday to everyone. Kind of a dreary day here in Charleston, but I guess you can't have all beautiful days. We welcome you to webinar number 15, Cyber Secure Your Wealth. Really excited you could join us for this. As most of you know that have kind of been along with us for a while, you know that we're huge advocates of providing education for all things retirement planning. That's why we dedicate a lot of time and energy into creating material, whether it's in person before the pandemic started, and then of course throughout all these webinars in the past few months. And although we touch on a lot of things like taxes and different kinds of investments, portfolio management, trying to keep you up to date on recent legislation and how that impacts retirees. Even if you do all those things like perfectly, unfortunately, if you make a couple mistakes in terms of your security and you leave yourself vulnerable, you can really get hurt. And sadly, more and more people are. And that's why I just felt we had a responsibility to kind of share some of these risks with our viewers. And I'm thrilled that we could have this special guest, an industry leading expert in this area, Gerald Auger. So I call him Jerry. I'm fortunate enough to call him a friend, but Jerry's the managing director of Coastal Information Security Group. He has a PhD in information security, and we're just really excited to have him share some of his knowledge. There should be a Q&A button down at the bottom. So as Jerry goes through the material, feel free to type in a question, and we will do our best to cover some of those questions at the end if we have time. So thanks so much for joining us, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you, Johan. And thanks for that introduction. I really appreciate that. And just with the Q&A stuff, I'm not sure if I'm going to see it. So if you can kind of facilitate that to me at the end, that would be great. So yeah, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending where you're logging in from. As Johan had mentioned, my name is Gerald Auger. And to Johan's point, on the wealth management side, if you've worked hard and squirreled away your nuts for the winter and done all the right things, you're actually more desirable a target because of your wealth, right? So today we're going to spend some time talking about what you need to know. Let me get this going here. Just as a little bit. Why isn't the slide advancing? Yeah. So just as a brief intro of myself. So, Johan had mentioned a little bit of this, but I have really dedicated the last 17 years of my life and really some before that to learning and mastering the field of cybersecurity and all the nuances of it. So what I'm doing today is really compressing down into about an hour, just the key salient points that you need to understand and be aware of so you can protect yourself and your assets, really. I've got a bunch of different things down here. If you want to connect with me after the talk, if we don't get to your question, if you want some clarification, I love my field. I love talking about this. I love helping people. So I'm more than willing to engage with you. So there's all the ways to do that. In addition to running Coastal Information Security Group, I'm also a cybersecurity architect at the Medical University of South Carolina, which is a multi-billion-dollar hospital system. And I have the PhD in cyber operations, just to kind of firm that up. So I do want to point out, just for your own benefit, Oceanside, in addition to this talk, Oceanside is one of my clients for Coastal. And they do excellent work. I'm not going to disclose anything, but I can just tell you they do excellent work, to the point where after working with them, I personally, they manage my money as well. Like that's how much confidence I have in the approach that they've taken to securing their business. So as an aside. So what are you going to get out of this specific talk today? Well, I'm going to explain, it might seem obvious, but why you'd want to secure your wealth, like basically what are all the angles and stuff of who is attacking you. And it's actually quite rampant right now. What do these attacks look like? I'm going to explain really the majority of the attacks. Like there's all sorts of different attacks, but I would say like 80% of them kind of fall into a couple specific categories. So I want you to know what they look like so you can identify them when they happen to you or to a person you care about. I'm going to go into a little bit of the detail on how the attack is actually executed. So then kind of pull back the curtain, if you will, and give you that empowering ability to understand the scope of what they're doing so you can handle it. And really, at the end of the talk, you should be able to identify what these attacks look like, understand how to protect yourself from that, and then really how to avoid or respond in the event that you are a victim of one of these attacks. So you can't really go very far without hearing of scams in the news. They come in various forms and fashions. This poor Illinois woman thought she saved for years, single mother, 3 kids, saved for years to put a down payment on a home and get her family in a better situation. And she wired the money to a con artist who pretended to be a realtor or the attorney closing the deal. She didn't get her money back. All of these things you see down here on the right. This is just from a couple weeks ago, January 25th, 2021. Amazon scams. The scammers are creative. They're very effective. And, they're not going to stop because, frankly, it pays really well. And many times they're international and they're in, situations that are impoverished and destitute. So a life of crime is actually quite appealing. So to the point of why internet scams and stealing people's money is so prevalent in today's day and age. It used to be that, you'd have to physically get to the person in order to con them out of their money, lie to their face, impersonate somebody. Well, in today's day and age, as everybody's fully aware, we are hyper interconnected. We live in an internet enabled, hyper connected age. So someone in Ghana, for example, can easily communicate with somebody in Charleston, South Carolina, very, very easily. So international borders no longer matter. Geography no longer matters. If you have internet, which most of the world does, you can be targeted and victimized. Additionally, everybody really has a cell phone at this point. Third world countries, et cetera. Having cell phones is easy. And if someone calls you, it's trivial for someone to call your phone, right? So they can make a direct connection to you regardless of where they are on the planet. And this is what has caused the explosion of scams and fraud, especially for Americans, because anyone internationally can get to you super, super easy. So I'm going to go deep on this topic right now. It's going to sound scary. Typically, when I talk about these things, people feel uneasy. It's kind of shocking when you learn some of these scams and how they're perpetrated and the victims of them. But when I'm done, you're going to feel more like this because you're going to feel empowered that you're aware of what's going on and how you can handle it. Okay. So this is my goal for you guys. This right here, not this. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about who is doing this to you. All right. In the world, like you don't have to read this whole chart right here, but in the world of cybercrime, there's basically 5 kind of buckets of attacker or criminal. Okay. They're listed right here. Each one has its own motivation. I want to call out the cyber criminals and the script kiddies. Okay. Because you'll notice that they are the financially motivated ones. We have insider threats, but that's more for business. Cyber criminals, it's their job. It's their 9-to-5 job is to commit crime, robbing people of their money. And script kiddies are basically like cyber criminals, except they don't have the technical acumen to be able to execute the attacks well, But the cyber criminals have actually figured out that it's beneficial for them not just to rob you and me, but actually to make playbooks and sell them to the script kiddies so they can also rob you and I, right? So that's actually like a second line of business that cyber criminals have right now. And we'll actually get into some more of that. They've actually built platforms. So what are they doing, right? What do these scams look like? This is the meat right here, okay? These are scams that are happening right now. These are the most prevalent ones. You may have already experienced one of these, okay? I hope to God not, or you were able to identify it as a scam, okay? So right now it's tax season, right? There are a lot of IRS scams right now. They come in different forms and fashions, but typically what the deal is they will impersonate the IRS and say something to the effect of, hey, they'll call you on the phone. Remember, they can call you from anywhere. And by the way, there's a technique called spoofing, right? And all it means is that I can spoof my phone number, which means I can make it look like anywhere. I can make it look like it's Johan calling you. And I call and say, hey, I'm calling from Oceanside Advisors. We're getting your FY20 portfolio put together. And it looks like there's some anomalies here. I'm going to need your social security number just to put it in. Fidelity is doing something, or TD Ameritrade's doing something, whatever it is, right? I can make it look like I'm calling from anywhere, including the IRS, right? I could just Google what's the IRS's phone number and then put that as my phone number. So they'll call and say, hey, this is the IRS calling. It looks like, they'll even do this. It looks like a fraud has been perpetrated on your account, and they've already filed they've already filed your taxes for this year. We think that there's a problem. We need to go ahead and confirm that you are who you say you are, so we can get in and back it out. So, let's get your social security number, like send over some documentation. They'll start basically getting you to provide their information. Another clever scam that is going on right now is, and this one's wild. So they will actually file your taxes legitimately, right? A lot of us get direct deposit from the IRS, right? So you'll just be like hanging out. It's whatever, February 19th right now. And all of a sudden there's a deposit in your bank account for, like, let's say your tax returns this year is $3,000. You're like, what the hell? I got $3,000 in my bank account. They know that because they filed your taxes. They then call you and say, hey, it's the IRS. Hey, really, there was a batch mistake. We're running because of COVID. We're working from home. Someone made a mistake and we accidentally filed the wrong social security number. And it's supposed to be Tom Jones's tax return, not your tax return, that 3,000. So I need you to wire that $3,000 back to me. Now, this is your actual tax return, but they're telling you that it's someone else's and a mistake was made. And instead of them being able to pull it out of the bank account, they need you to send a check to them. And that's how they get you to basically hand over your tax return. Okay. They're very clever. Another common attack, you probably have experienced this, is where you're surfing on the internet and you'll get like a pop-up on your screen. It's like a fake virus pop-up. It'll say, this is like an actual screenshot of one. It'll say, hey, your computer's infected. Like they're trying to scare you. Hey, your computer's infected. Hey, we know that there's pirated software. Hey, like you've got malware running on your computer. Call this number, this 1-800 number, 1-800, whatever. You see it up here as well. It looks legit-ish. Now, India is quite prevalent in this, the country. So they'll have tons of call centers set up. And literally, this is a 1-800 number to them. And what they will do is they will get you to call. They'll pretend to be Microsoft. They've got scripts all written up. And they'll say, hey, yeah, it looks like your computer's infected. I can help you. I need you to install a piece of software that allows me to remote into your computer so I can help you. It sounds legit, right? Tech support, especially if you're not very technical. Then they're on your computer. That's when they start doing things. They'll either install malicious software on your computer, or they'll get you to log into your bank, and then they'll start messing around, making it look like money's being moved, or they'll say, hey, like I can help you, but it's going to cost $300. I need you to give me $300 right now before I can help you. It's a scare tactic, and it's completely fraudulent. Medicare, Medicaid. Some of you may be on Medicare, Medicaid. Medicare fraud is pretty rampant too. So they'll call you and say, hey, this is Center for Medicare, Medicaid Services. Hey, I'm a Medicare rep. we want to send you a bunch of free stuff, but we need your social security number, we need your information, etc. And then they'll either file fraudulent claims on your behalf, or they'll do identity theft for various reasons. So Medicare is another angle that's quite popular. This one is not as rampant. This was bigger in 2019, 2020. We've seen a drop off on this particular type of attack. But you'll get a phone call and say, hey, this is the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. You didn't report for jury duty on February 15th. There's a warrant out for your arrest. If you'd be like, I didn't get a jury duty summons, and be like, well, that's not our problem. We can, there's a warrant out for your arrest, but if you pay a $500 fine right now on the phone, we can dismiss the warrant for your arrest. Would you like to do that? And of course, most people are scared, and they say, sure, I don't want to be in trouble. I don't want a warrant out for my arrest. And you'll just give $500 to a criminal. Again, they can call you from anywhere. They're completely lying, and you're just handing them money over the phone. Sextortion. Now, this one doesn't get talked about very often. There is a technique called sextortion. It's actually quite popular right now. Now, I'm not one to judge anyone's personal life choices, whatever. Sextortion is, you will receive an email from a criminal. They'll identify themselves as a criminal. Hi, I've installed malicious software on your computer a month ago. I've been watching what you have been doing on your computer. I know the adult websites you've been going to. I've turned on your web camera. I have video footage of you doing what you're doing to yourself while I have the other side of the screen showing what you're watching. I know the nasty things that you like to watch, and I know that, and I've got this. If you don't give me $500, I will release this. By the way, I know I have your contact list. So I have your friends, I have your family, I have your business associates. I know the clubs you're in, communities you join. I'm going to release it to them. I'm going to email all of them and horribly embarrass you, discredit you possibly in the community, unless you pay me $500. Now, the interesting thing with this, and like many of these frauds, it's completely a lie. They never installed anything, but people who do indulge in, whatever they want to indulge in, that don't know, will believe, oh my God, like I was doing something, and I really don't want people to know that I'm into whatever, like whatever fetish you're into. I will pay this because I don't want them to know. Some of you may have received this. This was actually quite popular last year, and it's actually still popular. So, like, if you get an email like that, it's completely rubbish. Okay, so I've called out romance scams here. This one is really rampant. Okay, this is a $300 million in 2020, $300 million in damages. I put U.S. Embassy in Ghana. Literally, Ghana is the leader in the world in committing romance scams, typically against Americans, some English citizens, UK citizens, but mostly Americans. Internet is wicked cheap in Ghana. Cell phones are wicked cheap in Ghana. Poverty is pretty high. Opportunity, access to jobs is pretty low. So this is actually this is a viable career path for people in Ghana. Okay, they have entire like training courses you can take in Ghana by people who have mastered this. A romance scam manifests in the following way: they pull down pictures. They build a fake profile of a soldier deployed in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever, Greece, doesn't matter. They have this like really rich story of why they're there and what they're doing. And then they immediately use, usually they find people on dating sites like eHarmony and those type of things who are looking for love or looking for connection. And they target them and they start a connection, they start a thing. And then they'll immediately move into, hey, like, my paycheck didn't come in this week. The government's jerking me around. Can you send me $300? Right? They'll start off small. Can you send me $300? Then they'll say, hey, I'm trying to get my visa approved. Like, they'll never, by the way, they'll never go on video, right? They'll do voice, they'll do email, they'll always have an excuse. Oh, the internet's really poor here. I can't do video right now. Or I was supposed to do video, but my camera doesn't work. I'm having technical issues. There's always an excuse, but they'll talk to you verbally. And they'll say things like, oh, I was going to come, but I got new orders. I can't change. I love you so much. They'll quickly move into the I love you. People have married their scammer thinking that they're actually married and that they're going to build a life together. And the person just takes and takes and takes. There's always an excuse. I need money. I'll come visit you. Send me $3,000 for a plane ticket. Okay. Oh, like I was going to do it, but something came up. Okay. Romance scams are really rampant, and the victims of them are hurt, not just financially, because they get basically robbed completely, because the romance scammer will just continue going and continuing the scam as long as they can. But they're emotionally hurt. And, you see some of these interviews and the people are just destroyed. It's really a scummy scam. This poor guy right here, Victor Semberger out of Virginia, accomplished businessman, executive career coach, 75 years old, had some mental, he had a stroke 15 years earlier than this. This is in June of 2020. Got contacted by Nigerian foreign ministry, reached out and said, hey, Victor, we know about your incredible career and how excellent you are at international negotiations. We have this opportunity where we're going to make a lot of money. And they laid it out, this Nigerian foreign minister, and said, what we really need is we need someone with your swag and your acumen to help us close the deal. So, would you fly to Spain, meet with some people, and then fly on to Greece and meet with the diplomats, right? The officials there. So he flies into the UK, meets with someone who hands him a North Face jacket, bubble jacket, right? That is completely lined with cocaine, 2.5 kilograms of cocaine. Very, very well done. It's hidden. It's not like a briefcase or a bag of cocaine. I mean, it's in the jacket. And they said, hey, Victor, we want you to give this as a gift to the diplomat in Greece. Giving gifts to diplomats is like part of the, cost of doing business. It's how you grease the skids in order to facilitate, right? The officials are expecting it. So he said, okay. Layover in Spain, drug dog sniffed him. He's got 2.5 kilograms, 5 pounds of coke on him, put in jail, incarcerated. And it's a big news story, but part of the thing I want to tell you is like, it could not just be financial, right? It could be this situation where you're a drug mule and you think that you're doing stuff. And just to tie into the romance scam, there's even the part where like when you exhaust someone of all their funds, when they can't give you any more money in the romance scam, then these Ghana folk or whoever's in romance scams will sell you to another criminal and say, this person is completely bought in. Here's my identity that I've created. Here's the conversations. Here's everything I've done with this person to point. You can take it. And then they'll typically use that person as a drug mule. They'll say, okay, like they don't know they're talking to a new person, but they'll say, hey, like, I really want to meet you. I'm in, Afghanistan right now. I can't get to the US, but I'll send you some money to buy a plane ticket and come over. And then they'll basically get them to become a drug mule, unbeknownst to them. Really, really scummy stuff. So you might be asking yourself, why me? Why would I be targeted? I'm just a normal person, pay my taxes. Well, in the 1920s, there was a famous bank robber who wore really nice suits called Slick Willie Sutton. He would just walk in and politely rob the bank. But when he was asked when he got caught, why do you rob banks, Willie? And he said, because that's where the money is. And quite frankly, as I mentioned on the onset here, you all have spent a lot of time accumulating your wealth, working hard, making sacrifices, making sound financial decisions. And it's just easier for someone to steal it from you than it is for them to do the hard work to earn it themselves. So that's why you. So how are they doing it? I've already kind of talked a little bit about like what the scams look like, but now let's pull back and basically show you how to commit the scam so you can understand what the scope of how they do it, right? So social engineering is a technique and a concept in my community in cybersecurity that's basically indicates hacking the human, right? So when you think of cybersecurity, you might think of like Hollywood movies where, you know, the guy with the hoodie and the dark glasses in the dim room with just the monitor lighting his face, banging away on the keyboard, hacking through firewalls, breaking into the Pentagon or the bank or whatever. Well, nowadays, like the technology to protect from that stuff is actually pretty good. So it's easier and more successful if I attack the human than it is for me to attack the technology. And that's what they're doing here. Now, we're going to basically, I've got the phone here because that's a really obvious, easy attack vector, and then email. Now, I want to point out here for a second that you probably have each received at least once in your life a letter from a business saying, hey, sorry, your data was involved in a data breach. We take security and privacy very seriously, but it's out there, right? And once it's out there, it's out there. You can't like go get a new social security number or a new phone or a new name. You know what I mean? Like that's it. Yahoo, billion users, right? Their email address, first of all, but then also potentially their emails. Equifax, one of the three major credit bureaus, they had a massive breach. You probably heard about it in 2017. 143 million Americans, including myself, had really a lot of sensitive information disclosed, social security number, right? Credit card numbers, date of birth, etc. Now think about this. As a criminal, when I am going to call you and say that I am the IRS and that your ability to file electronically is going to be disabled unless you can validate who you are, I'm a lot more credible when I say, well, hold on, I'm calling from the IRS. I'm wanting to speak to Johan Kroll, social security number 123572834. Is that you? Yes. Now I have just established a level of trust and authority with you as a victim because I know something that you think I shouldn't know. But in reality, that information is I got it off the dark web for like $1. I mean, you can buy like lots of these, like lots, not like a bunch, like a lot, like 10,000 people's information for $5. Like you can buy lots on the dark web. Also, the Marriott, the hotel chain, you probably stayed there once in your life. 5.5 million records breached last year, right? So what does that mean? Well, I mean, you can start painting a picture of where this person stays, like the locations they stay in, right? Obviously, it's got credit card and all this other information. But again, you're starting to empower the criminal to build a connection with you with information that may not make sense. Like Johan went to Hilton Head, like in the Marriott thing. I see that Johan went to Hilton Head in February 2020 or in February 2019, right? Okay. So, hey, I'm going to call Johan and be like, hey, I met you at Hilton Head. I don't know if you remember. I met you in Hilton Head last year, and we talked about finance. Like, I can find all sorts of information on Johan, right? We'll get into that in a second on social media, right? So, you know, Johan's not all over social media, but there's a lot of information, right? People put personal information, they share information, personal life, how Oceanside Advisors is going. You can start to paint a picture, right? So I can say, I met you in Hilton Head and we talked about a business deal and I'd really like to continue that conversation. So now Johan thinks I'm a businessman and that we have some history, right? So all of this data in the data breaches is empowering the scammer to appear more credible. That's what I want you to take away from that. So they'll do things like create complete fake profiles, fake identities, fake companies. They'll make it look legit because if I say, Johan, I'm calling from, you know, whatever, Flabbergaster Industries, Johan might Google that. Is this guy legit? What kind of business is he in? He might not even question my legitimacy. He may just want to get some information so he can come to the next meeting prepared. Well, if I've already built a fake everything, then it's going to be more credible. Again, this is all about the illusion of credibility. Now, email is an attack vector that you will get. I've already kind of covered several different scams that use email. It's not always about directly trying to convince you to give them money. There's other reasons that we'll get into in a second. But I just want to call out here, when you receive email, You should, if it seems suspicious, you should definitely do this. If it seems too good to be true, you should definitely do this, right? If it's somebody you don't know, you should definitely do this. You'll notice the from field, right? Like Office 365 protection services.co.uk. Like that sounds maybe legit because it has Office 365 in here, but it's not legit. This isn't legit. Sometimes they'll be super lazy and it'll even be something even more kind of random and ridiculous. But oftentimes scammers will try to make legitimate looking domain names to appear to be coming from legitimate sources. Or they'll do something like Oceanside Advisors, but the I in advisors will be a 1. So it's Johan Kroll at oceansideadvisors.com sending you an email. And if you look quickly, you might not notice that the I is a 1, right? But I can register that domain name right now and set up a mail server. It's very, very easy. You'll notice a lot of times in these emails, they'll have some sense of urgency. There's a warrant out for your arrest. Your access is going to be disabled in 24 hours if you don't do this. It's always something urgent. So you want to move quickly and not think clearly about what is going on. Obviously, grammatical errors, that's pretty standard. Bad English, right? Like I said, there's an international community that's committing this type of fraud and scam. So their English isn't always their first language. Sometimes they're copying and pasting from scripts that they've bought already. So some of the language won't even make sense. Like they'll be talking about disabling your access, and then later on they'll be talking about like a deal like that you can get in on. So just be aware of that. Now this is a little hard, okay? Personally, if I don't recognize your phone number, I will not answer the phone. I would strongly encourage you to adopt that. You have no idea who is calling you. As I mentioned earlier, you can spoof a phone number. I can make it look like I'm calling from anyone. So, I mean, it does stink if someone spoofs Johan's number. I have Johan's number in my cell phone, so they can call and appear to be calling from Johan and say, hey, like, I don't know who this is, but this guy was just in an accident and I'm standing right over him. And this is the first number I called. So I might believe that. I don't know what the angle on the scam would be there, but you understand what I'm saying. I want to play. I don't know if we're going to be able to hear this or not, Johan, but I've got an actual recording, just a quick little bit that you can hear. I'm going to try to play it and we'll see if you can hear it. Okay.
An unauthorized purchase of an iPhone XR 64 gigabytes for $749 is being ordered from your Amazon account. To cancel your order or to connect with one of our customer support representatives, please press 1 or simply stay on the line.
Okay. So hopefully you heard that. Did you hear it, Johan?
I did.
Okay. So this is a classic example. They've called, it's just the same as an email, except it's a different medium. It's harder to validate. They've called and said that there's a fraudulent purchase on your Amazon account for $750. That's not an insignificant amount of money. So now you're like, I don't want that. I'm concerned. I want to get this remedied. They've conveniently given you the opportunity to press 1 or wait on the phone to be able to connect with someone. You're literally being handed to a call center. So which with scammers in it, right? They're going to get your credit card information. They're going to steal your financial information, and then they're going to start committing fraudulent charges on it. Now, what's interesting about this is if you follow the evolution of these criminals, it's actually, like, I hate to say this, it sounds like just morbid, but it's really impressive how they evolve. They evolve quite well with their techniques. So what they're doing now is instead of a scammer picking up the phone, trying a number, calling, hoping you pick up, and then hanging up, trying again, they've literally automated it. So now the robocaller calls just every phone number, like, in America, ding, 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 ding. And as soon as somebody bites on the hook, it transfers them to me, the scammer, and I pick up my phone. So now I don't have to go through the trouble of calling everyone. My phone rings with victims, right? It's brilliant. So just, I would advise you not to answer your phone on unknown numbers. If it's legit, they'll leave a voicemail for you to call back. If it's illegit, they won't. So, that's the best way to protect yourself there. And we'll get into some ways to protect yourself in at the end here. Text messages are quite a popular way to communicate. It's a new medium. Scammers know this. They will text you with scams. Hey, like your Apple ID has been restricted, like click here. They make it super easy for you to click through. This is apple.com, looks legitimate, but actually the website is apple.com.itunes-management.services. This is a fraudulent website. When you click on that, it will take you to what looks exactly like apple.com's website to ask you to log in. I mean, exactly. They copy and paste Apple's website and put it there. So immediately you'll have to log in. Immediately you're giving them your apple.com credentials, which they can then use to either hold it ransom, extort it, change the password. They can make fraudulent purchases. So what they'll do is, you might think, how can they get money out of a fraudulent purchase? So what they'll do is they'll create an app, or they'll put a book in Amazon.com, whatever it is. They'll sell the app, which does nothing. They'll sell the app for $1,000, or they'll sell the book for $3,000 on Amazon. Now, no one's going to buy that legitimately because it's a book of nothing. But when I get your credit card, I make I'm going to buy that app with your credit card because I own the app and I'm going to get the money. That is how they convert a stolen credit card into cash, right? So they'll do this one. They'll also tell you that there's a package waiting for you. A lot of people use Amazon nowadays. COVID, most people are getting packages delivered to them. They'll do this one. So this is an example where like the domain name, the link, it looks completely bogus, right? This does not look like a FedEx link, but that's what they'll do. And then, you can see here, they're in this last one, they're saying that you actually have money, click here. So again, they're always trying to entice you. If you boil it down, whether they're sending you email, text message, or phone call, the three things that they're trying to do is steal your credentials, which is your username and password, so that they can then log in to whatever site it is to commit the fraud. And by the way, if you use the same password for your email and your banking and your Amazon and your whatever, Pinterest, it's easy to remember. But guess what? If I get your apple.com password, like these guys have scripts that just run through and say, CapitalOne.com, try to log in, Chase.com, try to log in, Navy Federal, try to log in. And it'll just report back success or fail, success or fail. And it takes a minute, right? Script runs, dumps out and says, yep, these three sites all use those same credentials. And now the attackers, this moves beyond scamming and directly into like just straight criminal activity. They'll log into your account and then either create a new vendor and do a bill to pay or bill pay to them as the vendor, or they'll just go take your money out, right? So there's different ways that they can do that, but you really shouldn't use passwords across sites. They'll also try to install malware, which is malicious software, so then they can either like do key logging, so they can actually record everything you type on your keyboard, which would include username and passwords, private email correspondence. They can do all sorts of stuff with the malware. And really just frankly to engage with you. And this is the heart of scams. Like I mentioned, convincing you, like once they get you on the phone, they can start feeding you whatever they want. Oh, like, baby, I love you. Like, I want to be with you. Please send me money. Right. Or, hey, this is the IRS. Like, I'm going to now use a scare tactic on you, or I'm going to bully you. So they want to engage with you. Right. And like I said, they can be anywhere in the world to do it. All right. So hopefully you're not, curled up in the corner, worried about all this stuff. So let's talk about what you can do to protect yourself. I've already kind of sprinkled out throughout this talk some of the things you can do. Old Ronald. Okay, so the very first thing that you should always do is, trust what they're saying, but verify. Always verify, and not directly through the correspondence mechanism that they sent you, right? So like whenever I receive like fraud, like, hey, like I use chase.com, right? Hey, we've seen some fraudulent activity on your chase.com thing. Click here to like validate whether or not it's a legit purchase or not, right? So what I'll do is immediately go to my Chase app on my phone, log into my Chase account, look to see if there's fraudulent activity, or in some cases call Chase or call my bank and say, hey, I got this message about fraudulent activity. Can you help me? I am initiating it. I am verifying the phone number I'm calling because it's on the back of my credit card, or I went to chase.com and pulled the number. I am not calling the number in the email or the text message. I am not clicking on the link in the email or the text message. Okay. Unless it's, it's like the legit source and everything. By doing this, you are initiating the communication path and you have confidence that it's legit, right? So always do that, and just be on the lookout, man. If it's anxiety inducing, scary, threatening, those are all the hallmarks of this type of fraudulent activity. Don't ever wire money. This is like there's like two main ways that they try to get your money, right? Wiring, because it's irreversible for the most part, right? Once they know the money's wired, they'll take it out. A lot of times they'll ask you to wire money. That Illinois woman who saved up 35 grand to put a down payment on a place for her family, that's how she got taken. The the attacker had gotten into the email of the real estate attorney. The scammer was following the email correspondence between him and her, knew that she was about to make a purchase or a transaction. The scammer then called, said, "Hey, I'm calling from the real estate attorney's office. There's been a change in the accounting number that you need to wire to. Sorry for the inconvenience. Can you just go ahead and wire the money to this new account?" "Sure, no problem." Did it. She then showed up for the closing and was like, the attorney said, "Did you bring the check?" And she said, "What do you mean? I wired it per your assistant's message the other day." No, that isn't us, right? So be very cautious when it comes to wiring money. Now, this is going to blow your mind, okay? Gift cards, you scratch off the code on the back of a gift card and give it to a scammer, they can immediately realize the money and the card's worth nothing. It's very successful. It blows my mind, but scammers will always, or not always, but a lot of times they'll say, "Hey, like, go get some gift cards, go buy $500 in Apple gift cards and call me back," or whatever. And like, we had one situation here last year where, now granted, this person was not from America. They're a US citizen now, but they got the call about the jury duty. "Hey, you missed jury duty." And the person not familiar with American, judicial system and how that works was scared. And they said, "If you go get $500 in Amazon gift cards, you can pay the fine over the phone." Now, it makes no sense why you would Amazon gift card to pay a fine, but the victim believed it and went to the store and bought $500 in gift cards. Fortunately, they sat down to call the sheriff back, and the person they sat down next to said, "What are you doing with $500 in Amazon gift cards?" And they said, "Oh, I have a warrant out for my arrest. I'm going to pay my fine." And the person said, "That's not how it works in the US." So if they're asking for gift cards, be very, very cautious. The tech support scams are also quite, they use gift cards quite a bit as well. The one thing that I would strongly encourage you, like, I can't emphasize this enough, personal, business, whatever, multi-factor authentication is easily the most valuable control that you can put in place to protect yourself. I've been talking here ad nauseum about they get into your email, they get you your username and password, and they log into your apple.com account or whatever. Multi-factor authentication requires a second form of authentication. Many of you may have done this already in your life, right? You got the little 6-digit pin that rotates. You get a little text message that says, "Put in this number," or whatever. That is multi-factor authentication. Enable that on your financial accounts and your email, because you should really do it everywhere, but those two specifically, and I'll tell you why. The financial one's quite obvious, right? It's protecting access to your money. On your email, if you don't do it there, if they get in your email, if I go reset your password for your chase.com account, guess what happens? It sends an email to you to click on to reset your password. So if I'm in your email, I can circumvent multi-factor authentication and just reset your password and then log in with a password I set. Now you can't even access your own chase.com account, and I can, right? Multi-factor. So this is me logging into my Navy Federal account just to kind of give an illustrated example. When you go into web apps, it's typically under settings. It's typically a section called like security, privacy and security, authentication, sign in. Like it's somewhere around there, and it'll be called two-step verification or multi-factor authentication or dual authentication, something around that. I would strongly encourage you consider turning that on like today, especially if you are reusing passwords, because going back earlier to the data breach, I don't even need you to give me your password. I don't need to trick you to give me your password. I can just buy a lot of compromised credentials on the dark web and put them in my little script to run, right? The bad guys, they're tech enabled and they're pretty good at what they do, okay? Also, you know, I use Google AdSense. I get paid by Google to do YouTube stuff. But like anytime you make a change, keep an eye out for these type of things. If you add a new vendor on your in your banking app, or you make a payment or something like that, you should get some notification, right? So I changed my bank account number on Google. I got notified. If you're receiving messages like this and you didn't do it, that's a high indicator of compromise. So you really need to pay attention to that and take action quickly before, basically at this point, if you didn't do this, now you're trying to control the damage. You're not stopping the damage. Again, you know, if you get a message about your password reset, like this one here, and you didn't reset your password, that's an indicator of compromise. If you're reusing passwords across websites, I use LastPass. Effective March 17th, 2021, LastPass is actually going to start charging. Actually, Johan, we should talk about that. LastPass is going to start charging. I mean, it's reasonable. It's $3 a month, but basically there's other alternatives: KeyPass, 1Password, Dashlane, LastPass, and I'll provide. Like I said, you can follow up with me afterwards. I'm happy to tell you all this again. These password manager vaults basically allow you to remember just one password, the one to the vault, and then they manage all the other passwords. I literally do not know the password to my Navy Federal account or my chase.com or my Google email or any of my accounts. And I have hundreds. I don't know the passwords, and they're all different and they're all completely random. And it's because I use a tool like this to manage that for me. So when Yahoo pops and I get notified that my Yahoo account's been compromised, first of all, I have peace of mind because all I have to do is change my Yahoo password and that's all set. And I feel comfortable because I know that that password is junk to the criminal because it doesn't go to anything else and it no longer goes to Yahoo. Again, if you don't recognize the number, don't feel bad. Don't feel obligated to answer it. You can just send it to voicemail like I do. Like, by the way, if you follow up with me on voice, just know that I'm not going to answer your call and send it to voicemail. All right. So, and then you do have one like last ditch effort. If you are victimized, you can from a cyber crime, right? Scam, whatever it is, you can file a complaint with the FBI. They have this ic3.gov, which is basically supposed to be the intake mechanism for reporting this type of crime, and they will help you. But you know, your mileage really will vary. Like that poor woman who got her 35 grand stolen, like the FBI is not going after that criminal. They're just reporting it as another victim so they can have their metrics. But it is important to report. And sometimes they can do something, maybe get your money back, especially if you're like one of many victims of the same criminal, they might be able to go after them and recover some of your assets. But wired money and gift cards, you're not going to be able to get back. All right, so that kind of rounds it up. Hopefully you feel more informed. Hopefully you feel empowered to be able to protect yourself. And hopefully you enjoyed the talk. So I'll open it up right now, Johan, for Q&A.
Yeah, Jerry, that was wonderful. Thanks so much. Yeah, so it looks like there's just one question here. So if there are, if you want to type one in, feel free. But yeah, this is an interesting, and it's right on the page here. So David wrote in, I see Gerald's web address is not the common .com or .org, but is rather .io. Mm-hmm. Is this a more secure address?
Right. So great question, David. Thank you. So maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. So the answer is no, it's not more secure. Okay, that's the simple answer. I'll elaborate. About 4 or 5 years ago, because there is money to be made in here. Let me stop sharing so we can. There's money to be made in selling domain names. Frankly, right? Everybody wanted .com. It was .org, right? .biz, whatever. So maybe 5, 6 years ago, there was an explosion of new domain names that you could buy. None of them are more secure than others. The domain name is literally just a name that translates to an IP address so computers can access devices. So simplycyber.io, which is my web. So Coastal is my company. I also do a YouTube channel called Simply Cyber, and the website is simplycyber.io. In the tech community, like basically .io is kind of like the hot, trendy domain name to go with. So instead of simplycyber.com, simplycyber.io appeals more to the base that I'm trying to target with my YouTube channel. So that's why I selected that specific one. What I will tell you, David, is that, you know, .com is obviously what it is, but like .info, .tv, .xxx, right, which is obviously a line for adult material. Like those are all fine, but internationally, there will be like different countries except the United States, because like we basically started it. Other countries will have a country code on the end of it. So like it might say like amazon.com.au is the Australian platform for Amazon, or oceansideadvisors.com.cn, right? So this is actually like an interesting one. So I could register oceansideadvisors.com.cn, which would be in China, and it would look like it, but it's a Chinese top level domain. So the root of it, the base of it, of whatever domain name it is the thing furthest to the right before the first slash. And I know that sounds a little complicated, but just think of like amazon.com/ and then like product ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. The base from HTTPS to whatever before the first slash, that is what the domain name is. And that's why you saw apple.com.live.services as a domain name, because they're trying to trick you into thinking it's apple.com, but in reality, it's a .services domain. So there's nothing to do with security. The domain name is literally just something that's easy for humans to remember, that gets translated into numbers for the computer to understand.
Yeah, we got a few more flowing in here, Jerry.
Yeah.
One, please ask Jerry to talk about cell phone SIM card switching.
Yep.
Allows you to steal a phone number.
Yep. Okay, so at its very high level, a cell phone, I can sell my cell phone and someone takes it, and it's not like they put on their own SIM card in, and it's their phone number. The SIM card is how you register to your network who you are, right? The cell phone is just a piece of technology. The SIM card is what ties you to the phone, and you being your Verizon account, your AT&T account. So with multi-factor authentication, we talked about this a little while ago, I would strongly encourage a like 6-digit PIN. There's authenticator apps. Google's got one, Microsoft's got one. That's the best way to go. Another way to go, and a lot of people do this, some organizations only offer this, is you get a text message, right? Maybe some of you have received a text message when you log in. It says, hey, put in this 6-digit PIN. We're just verifying you are who you are. Now, what criminals have figured out is I can go into Verizon or AT&T. There's been a lot of instances like this. It's a little bit more level of effort. You can even call, but what they'll end up doing is either through fraudulent means convince the clerk that I am Johan Kroll and I got a new cell phone because I lost my cell phone, and I need you to put my account on this phone now. Or which is more effective is they'll literally say, hey, like I know you make $15 an hour. I'll give you $1,000 if you make this phone look like Johan Kroll's. That's way more effective. It's a shorter time. It's called SIM swapping or SIM mirroring or whatever. So now what happens is I log in and my phone gets the text message, not Johan's. Johan would probably notice that his phone's no longer working because they've switched the SIM. But basically, when you do that SIM switch, you already know that you've got their username and password and you're about to commit whatever your crime is. So that's what SIM switching is. You really can't do anything about it, which is why I would encourage you not to use, if your only option is a text message for your multi-factor authentication, then yes, go with it. Multi-factor in any form is better because you're raising the bar for the criminal to commit the crime. If you have a choice between a 6-digit rotating PIN and a text message, go with the 6-digit PIN, because SIM switching isn't that common, but it is an attack vector that's well established and well reported on.
Cool. We'll take two more quick ones here. I know you got another commitment coming up here. Curtis asked, do you recommend blocking your account with the 3 credit bureaus and with the IRS?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called, you can freeze your credit with the credit bureaus, and they've actually got like a really well-defined process on walking through that. And what that effectively does is if someone tries to open a line of credit, open a credit card, take a loan out, buy a car under your name, right? All like we didn't even talk about identity theft, but that's a whole other criminal racket that's going out there. But criminals will basically fake that they are you, open lines of credit, et cetera. The way to combat that is to freeze your credit with there's actually 4 credit bureaus. I've only done them with 3, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. But you freeze it, and then any credit pull doesn't work. And it's pretty much airtight. I will tell you from a practical perspective, when I bought my car in 2017, I had to go in and thaw my credit. And there's a mechanism for that. And you can actually go in and say, thaw my credit for 2 weeks. And then your credit can be pulled and whatever for that 2-week period. And then it automatically freezes again. So it's a little bit of an inconvenience. You do have to take good notes because they give you a PIN for each of the 3 bureaus to thaw your credit. And if you lose that, you're going to be like really, really inconvenienced for the process to prove who you are and not a criminal, right? They make it wicked hard. That way someone can't try to perpetrate identity theft through you. So strongly encourage it. You may also want to consider doing it for your kids, because your kids aren't going to take a line of credit. Like say your kid's 8, my kid's 8. He's not going to try to take a line of credit out for 10 years, probably, maybe longer, 15 years. So if someone's committing, identity theft and taking loans out, we might not find out about it for quite a while, right? So something to consider, but yes, it's a best practice.
Really good point there. I hadn't thought about that at all. All right, last question. I try to block emails I don't know, but they keep changing domain names. Any suggestions on how to block these ever-changing domains from the same source?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's really easy for the criminals to stand up and change domain names to the question, to the point of the question. There isn't really a good way to do it. What I would encourage you to do is well, it depends what platform you're using for email, right? So somebody like Google, for example, or Office 365, they have like basically intelligence. Like think of it as like a fishing net that sits in front of your email. And before the email gets put in your inbox, if it's a known malicious domain or it's been reported or whatever, they'll actually screen it out. So think of your mailman throwing out flyers before they put the mail in your mailbox. That would be so awesome, right? Some of these larger platforms offer that service. If you're a business, you can actually buy appliances that do this and that type of thing. But if you're just running like Comcast.net for your email, or one of these that don't offer that service, there's really no option for you short of just doing it manually. So unfortunately, yeah.
Well, Jerry, thank you so much for taking the time. I think we certainly had a larger than usual audience. I tried really hard. I don't know if I think some of the viewers maybe could have sensed my tone in the email invite, that I was really hoping we could get as many people on this call as possible, just because it's so important. And thank you so much. And certainly any of the viewers, feel free to reach out to Jerry directly, or you can reach out to me and I'll ask the question for you. But thank you. And we wish everyone a really nice weekend. Take care.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.